A major development when it comes to the disappearance of Andrade El Idolo from AEW programming after he just made his return to the promotion, with reports of WWE sending a legal letter to All Elite Wrestling suggesting that not only does Andrade still have a non-compete clause, but it could be valid for up to 1 year as per his departure from the company being fired with cause. However, Andrade reportedly is not getting paid by WWE despite having this 1 year non-compete. We'll let you know all the details and more in this news update. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with the latest in the confusion regarding Andrade El Idolo's sudden disappearance from AEW programming, WWE's legal threats, and just what is going on here. Now, after a week of speculation, the reason for Andrade's absence from AEW television was revealed yesterday when F4W Online and PW Insider separately confirmed it was related to a non-compete clause in Andrade's WWE contract that WWE chose to enforce after releasing him last month. At the time, it was thought the non-compete could keep Andrade out for the traditional 90-day period most wrestlers face after being let go, even though he wouldn't be paid during that time period. As it turns out, though, Andrade could face an even longer spell on the sidelines. Now, PW Insider was reporting that there is emerging talk in what they describe as, quote, lucha circles, end quote, that his non-compete clause could keep Andrade out for 1 year. Now, the reason for this, quote, is due to the breach of his WWE deal when Andrade was terminated, end quote, though it is not explained whether the breach was Andrade signing with AEW or something that caused his WWE release. Now, it was noted that something of this nature could be challenged legally by Andrade should he choose to do so. Now, this is where it gets really again, strange and odd. A big update comes from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, who has interestingly described this whole situation as a mess. Now, after popping up in AEW in early October, Andrade disappeared and was pulled from indie bookings. Things were very quiet, as we spoke about previously in the weeks that followed, until the Wrestling Observer revealed that WWE sent AEW a cease and desist letter indicating that he was still under contract to them. Sources that Fightful spoke to, familiar with the situation, said they didn't believe it was AEW or Andrade's fault. Now, rumors of the situation emerged internally last week with the belief that WWE had just effectively told Andrade that he was done, without any knowledge of a non-compete. At that point, Andrade began taking additional bookings and signed with All Elite Wrestling. He had a team of representatives speak with Tony Khan, and Tony and Andrade saw each other for the first time the day of his return on AEW Dynamite. In the past, WWE's period of contract termination notice was referred to as a non-compete, but it wasn't actually that, as the talent would get paid. There were actual non-competes in the past, such as Brock Lesnar when he left WWE in 2004. Per the terms of his release, he signed a non-compete for years and wasn't getting paid. However, that didn't hold up in court. Lesnar even changed the name of his F5 finish at the verdict. That's when he had those matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling against the likes of Kurt Angle and others. There was legal situations at the time, but eventually it got resolved and Lesnar actually came out on top in that scenario because, again, it wasn't legally enforceable. WWE staff, roster, and sources, according to Fightful, also believed he was gone from the company with no additional time left on his deal ever since Andrade was fired by WWE. Under normal circumstances, WWE could technically ask him to come to work upcoming TV, but that would undermine the wellness policy element of his departure. How come he could get fired for wellness policy violations and then they would have him on TV very shortly? It doesn't make any sense. Now, no agents that Fightful spoke to have ever heard of pay being docked during a wellness policy violation either, suggesting that this is quite a unique case. Now, Fightful have been told by AEW sources that this absence did affect immediate creative plans for AEW Dynamite and Wrestle Dream, something that Tony Khan actually confirmed yesterday. However, there appears to be no bad blood towards Andrade, and the working plan is still for him to compete in AEW when the situation is cleared up, depending on how long it's going to take, of course. Someone close to Andrade reportedly told Fightful that he was in good spirits this week despite the situation and was keeping it very quiet. So the kind of short notes initially, and again, it developed over time, but the short notes initially here was that Andrade is signed to AEW and there appears to be no bad blood there. There are still plans to use Andrade in AEW when AEW is available to do so. Andrade had to pull from additional bookings as a result, not just AEW, but these indie shows that he disappeared from and nobody really knew why. People in WWE were also reportedly shocked by this news. Fightful say they can't confirm he's not being paid, but that is what is being reported by others. And again, it did affect creative plans. Andrade could certainly fight it, and if it's extended for a year, he would certainly win this situation because, again, it's not really legally enforceable for him not to compete whilst also not getting paid. Now, in an update from this, a number of people reportedly have indicated to Fightful Select that Andrade has a, quote, very good lawyer, end quote, but didn't specify that he was fighting this legal situation. The 90-day period is often referred to as a non-compete, but actually it's more of a notice of contract expiration as the talent gets paid. The talent gets paid through that 90-day period. They're still technically under contract to WWE. It's more of a notice it's going to terminate in 90 days' time. Now, PW Insider reported that Andrade would not be getting paid during that non-compete. The conflicting element is that almost any court situation to fight it would extend past the 90 days. However, that's where Fightful say things differ from the norm. The Wrestling Observer reported that WWE has a clause in their contracts where a person at cause, being fired for cause, can be extended for a year. Fightful say they've learned of the language of that clause. This is what is reportedly in all of these talent contracts now. Quote, B, upon termination of this agreement by promoter for breach of terms hereof, wrestler shall not work, appear, or perform in any capacity for any professional wrestling, sports entertainment, mixed martial arts, and or ultimate fighting organization, promotion, or entity not owned or controlled by promoter or any affiliated or subsidiary company thereof in the United States for a period of up to 1 year from the date of such expiration or termination as specified by promoter in the notice of termination, provided, however, that if no lesser period is specified by promoter in the notice of termination, such period shall be 1 year. There is also a follow-up that says, quote, 12.4, in no circumstances whatsoever shall either party to this agreement be liable to the other party for any punitive or exemplary damages, and all such damages, whether arising out of the breach of this agreement or otherwise, are expressively waived. Now, Fightful say if fought in court, this would almost certainly be thrown out, but it doesn't prevent the legal issue that Andrade is currently facing right now. Now, interestingly, of course, yesterday was the AEW Wrestle Dream media call ahead of the pay-per-view tomorrow. We will be live with a watch-along and a post-show for that. Naturally, Tony Khan, the AEW president and CEO, was asked specifically by Sports Illustrated's John Albert about Andrade's status. He said, quote, while I would echo sentiments I had said at AEW World's End 2023 when Andrade initially left a few years ago, and I would say that I have a ton of respect for Andrade El Idolo. I think he's an amazing wrestler, and I think that when he left in 2023, it was on a very high note. Just to reiterate everything I said at his departure a few years ago, I still feel that way, and I think Andrade is a great wrestler, and I'm excited to see what's next for him. I would leave it at that. Now, asked if he was aware of a non-compete for Andrade, Khan replied, quote, yeah, I would just echo the sentiments again when Andrade initially left. I have a ton of respect for him, and I'm saying as much as I can say about it, but I appreciate you asking. I'm excited to see what's next for him. Again, this is somebody that I think is just an incredible wrestler. I really enjoyed working with him in the past, and I'm excited to see what's next for him. So Khan remaining non-committal on it. Of course, if we get any more details, we'll let you know in a future video. Now, before we move on to the next news story, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes NordVPN. And you can see right there in the sidebar, we've got something a little bit extra now. Not only can you still get up to 77% off plus 3 months extra using our link, we've also got a specific link, an easier one for you to find. It is nordvpn.com/WN365. That's it. The link's in the video description below. It's pinned in the comment section. You can scan that QR code right there. You can save yourself some money, and then you can change the way you watch wrestling. You can change your location to here in the UK. You can watch all of your WWE content through one Netflix subscription. Or you can, if you change your location to the UK, you can also watch all of your AEW content in the same place. Via Triller TV, you can watch every episode of Dynamite ever, every episode of AEW Collision ever, plus their back catalogue, plus their pay-per-views. And it's a pretty good deal. So you can get that. All you have to do is use our link in the video description below. Now, Jacob Fatu, he reportedly could be out of action for quite some time, but things get interesting when it comes to SmackDown tonight. We'll talk about SmackDown later on, but it's starting to look like WWE should start preparing for life without Seth Rollins, and now another big name is expected to be out long-term due to injury. Body Slam is reporting that Jacob Fatu has suffered an injury and will possibly be out of action well into 2026. Now, Fatu is said to be dealing with a non-wrestling related injury, and although the severity of the situation is currently unknown, it seems to be serious enough to keep him on the shelf for a very extended period per the report. The injury comes at an unfortunate time for the Samoan Werewolf, who was involved in a feud with Drew McIntyre on SmackDown and a potential challenger to Cody Rhodes' undisputed WWE Championship in the near future. Since losing the United States Championship to Solo Sikoa this past June, it was expected that Fatu would enter the world title picture for the remainder of the year, but any plans regarding his pursuit of the championship seemingly are going to be put on pause for now. Last year, Fatu suffered 2 minor injuries while he was still part of Sikoa's bloodline. He initially hurt his foot following SummerSlam, but luckily the injury only kept him off SmackDown for a short period of time. Just a few months later, Fatu got hurt at Survivor Series War Games, but was able to return to in-ring competition immediately. So far, it's uncertain whether Fatu's most recent injury is related to any of his previous setbacks. Of course, if we get any more details on the nature of the injury, we'll let you know. But when it comes to SmackDown tonight, we'll talk about that in just a bit. Now, speaking of injuries, new backstage details on Seth Rollins. It has not been the best of weeks for the World Heavyweight Champion, has it? Despite the fact that he finally defeated Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel to win the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. Since then, though, Rollins has been betrayed by his Vision stablemates. He has been seen walking around with a sling on his arm. Many have concluded that Rollins was injured during a coast-to-coast headbutt spot during his match with the American Nightmare, and that the Vision betrayal was to write him off, although some are skeptical given WWE and Rollins faked everyone out with an injury angle earlier this year. On Thursday's Wrestling Observer Radio, however, Dave Meltzer made it clear, very clear that is, that Rollins' injury is quite real, and the prognosis doesn't look to be good, as it appears that Rollins will have to miss an extended period of time, including maybe past WrestleMania in Las Vegas next year. At the moment, however, Meltzer is unclear of what it means for the World Heavyweight Championship. He said, quote, "Well, it looks like he's going to need surgery on the shoulder," Meltzer said, and that's pretty much it. The story that I got was that he was going to have surgery as soon as possible. That was a couple of days ago. And everything else, I haven't heard anything as far as what they're going to do. I presume it could be on tomorrow's show, but probably on Monday's show, they'll make the announcement as far as what they're going to do about the world title, what they're going to do about Saturday night's main event, because they've got to get the Saturday night's main event thing going. So, of course, if we get any more details on WWE's plans, we'll let you know in a future video. Now, everyone at the moment is talking about ratings and how the new methodology for calculating ratings is kind of messing up pro wrestling ratings and seeing a massive decrease in what people assumed was the amount of people watching the shows. Now, over the past month, Nielsen have switched how they've measured television ratings, going away from panel only and towards a new methodology called Big Data Plus Panel. The claim is that the new method will improve accuracy. The changes in wrestling viewership numbers take a downturn. On the AEW Wrestle Dream media call, Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp asked Tony Khan about this new methodology. He said, quote, "It's going to be an interesting thing to look at. I'm very excited about what we did last night. I thought it was a tremendous show. We had Collision back in its normal time slot and saw a great lift this week. I do think AEW, if you look at where we started this year and ended last year, how we've been doing, I think AEW is having overall a very good year. I think if you look at where wrestling companies ended up last year and the first few months of this year, AEW is having some of the best results of anybody on TV when it comes to this methodology. I'll be interested in seeing what it means being part of the NFL. We're very cognizant in changes in media and rating methodology. I'm going to keep an eye on it. It's a new system and it's very interesting to see the differences and try and learn from that. That's what business and enterprise is all about, adapting to the environment. AEW has done well in adapting. It could be a lot of positives and it's important to take the time to learn," said Khan. Now, another story about AEW this week was regarding a possible AEW training center being based in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, as the pre-AEW Wrestle Dream media call was taking place, the subject of an AEW training facility was brought up to company president Tony Khan. He confirmed his interest in that and then brought up past conversation he had with Adam Copeland and FTR about an AEW-affiliated facility being in Copeland and FTR's home of Asheville, North Carolina. He said, quote, "Yeah, I am interested in it, and it's something I talked about. I was kind of surprised to see the report because I'm still interested in that, and I would say it's one of those things when you read something and there's a lot of truth to it, but then when you're around the situation sometimes and you see something reported, sometimes you say, well, okay, that's part of the story, but not the whole story. Obviously, it's a different relationship with FTR and Adam Copeland than it was earlier this year. If FTR and Adam Copeland can rebuild their relationship, that is something I'm very interested in, having that facility. I do think that it is something that there is interest in, and I do think in the long term, the big picture, because we're all going to be doing this for a long time, I really believe that Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, FTR, and Cope and Christian, all those guys are people that I want in AEW for a long time, and I hope that Adam Copeland and FTR can rebuild that relationship, because I am interested in that, and I think it would be absolutely fantastic mentors, and they are absolutely fantastic mentors to people. I would love to have those guys reunite and be able to rekindle that project we did talk about, which is a real idea about having FTR and Copeland with an AEW affiliated training school and working with them and having that project be in their hometown in Asheville, North Carolina. So it could be a possibility, but Tony Khan weaving in kayfabe, I suppose, into that one as well. Now, could we see an AEW Hall of Fame one day? Well, if we do, looks like Samoa Joe could be one of the first inductees. Going into AEW Wrestle Dream weekend, this media call took place, as I mentioned, and Tony Khan heaped praise on the former AEW World Champion. While he was speaking about Joe's accomplishments in AEW and wrestling in general, Khan stated that if AEW were to create a Hall of Fame, Joe would be a first ballot candidate. He said, quote, "From the first time I ever worked with him at Ring of Honor Supercard when he first came in 2022, and everything he's done over the past 3.5 years, Samoa Joe has carved out a legacy. He's a Hall of Famer in Ring of Honor, and if we ever do an AEW Hall of Fame, he would certainly, in my opinion, be a first ballot candidate for that as well." So maybe Joe could be in the AEW Hall of Fame one year whenever they decide to implement it. Switching over to TNA Wrestling here, and an update on the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay are the current TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. They retained those titles at TNA Bound for Glory over the Elegance brand. It had been reported earlier that their contracts would expire around the time of the pay-per-view. Now, Fightful Select has learned that the former WWE Women's Tag Team Champions are actually working in TNA Wrestling without contracts. However, it is reportedly expected that they will sign an extension with Total Nonstop Action. So if we get any more details on them possibly signing new deals, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. Mercedes Moné has broken the record for the longest reigning AEW TBS champion of all time. Another milestone for Mercedes Moné, who is now the longest reigning AEW TBS champion ever. Moné has held the title for 509 days, passing Jade Cargill's reign of 508 days. Cargill made 25 successful title defenses during her reign. She was the first ever AEW TBS champion. Moné currently has 22 successful title defenses. She has defeated the likes of Chris Statlander, Sky Blue, Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, Mina Shirakawa, Nyla Rose, Riho, Momo Watanabe, Harley Cameron, and much more. And of course, it's just one of many titles she has. She currently holds 10 physical championship titles. Now, going to SmackDown tonight, and this is where we go back to Jacob Fatu. But let's begin with Cody Rhodes. Undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes will appear on tonight's episode of SmackDown. Rhodes is coming off a loss to Seth Rollins at WWE Crown Jewel Perth in a champion versus champion battle for the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. Plus, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair will defend their WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against Zaruka, of course, the team of Sol Ruka and Zarya from WWE NXT. SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis has also confirmed that Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre is still happening. Of course, that comes after, though, that injury report. So we'll wait and see what happens tonight on SmackDown. Now we have the ratings for Tuesday's episode of WWE NXT. Programming Insider has reported that WWE NXT drew 690,000 viewers on the CW network on October 14th. This number is up from the 625,000 viewers the show drew on October 7th, which was an NXT vs TNA Showdown special. Tuesday's episode scored a 0.12 rating in the 1849 demographic, which is in line with the 0.12 demo rating last Tuesday's episode scored. Now, let's go over to AEW once again. Could Switchblade Jay White be on his way back to AEW television? Jay White returned to social media on Thursday. He simply posted, quote, "Ready." It was his first post since March. Now, on the April 5th episode of AEW Dynamite, Jay White confirmed that he was sidelined with a hand injury. White was scheduled to compete in the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament. In August, AEW President Tony Khan said that White was going to be out for a long time. White was involved in the AEW World Championship picture throughout the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, stepping up against Jon Moxley and the Death Riders before going down with injury. Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson recently aligned with Ace Austin on AEW television, keeping the Bang Bang Gang alive, while Jay White and Colton Gunn have been sidelined with their respective injuries. Speaking of return from injuries, could former AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland be on his way back to television as well? Strickland has been off television since losing to Kazuchika Okada at AEW New Japan's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Swerve underwent surgery for a torn meniscus following the event. Asked for an update on Swerve during the AEW Wrestle Dream media call, Tony Khan stated that he hopes to have Swerve back sooner rather than later. He said, quote, "I definitely think Swerve will be back long before Kota Ibushi. Swerve was dealing with a serious injury, but not a long-term outlook. Swerve will hopefully come back relatively soon. It's not the kind of situation where you expect him to be out for a year or more. With Swerve, it's a shorter timetable. I can't say exactly when because I'm not a doctor and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but based on the conversations I've had, even today, I think he's on a good pace and Swerve will be back sooner rather than later." Now, speaking of Kota Ibushi, of course, he suffered that broken femur that's got him out of action for possibly 2 years. At the AEW Collision taping at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, Kota Ibushi was in action against Josh Alexander. Ibushi ended up suffering that aforementioned broken femur, which he's undergone successful surgery for since. Ibushi was brought up during the pre-AEW Wrestle Dream media call, and company president Tony Khan confirmed that Ibushi was supposed to be in action at the pay-per-view tomorrow. Khan added that Ibushi had just secured a new visa. Ibushi shared a photo of Khan visiting him in the hospital post-surgery, and Khan stated on the media call that Ibushi was in great spirits. Of course, there is no timetable for how long Ibushi is out of action, but it has been said he could miss possibly up to 2 years. Now, former WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon was in court yesterday. On Thursday, October 16th, Vince McMahon appeared in court for his charges of reckless driving and following too closely that he received after a car accident back in July. Heading into the hearing, McMahon was spotted signing autographs outside the courthouse. Now, according to TMZ Sports, McMahon's appearance was successful. The outlet stated that his charges will be dropped in a year if he is able to keep his nose clean in accelerated pretrial rehabilitation. McMahon is also being asked to donate $1,000 to charity and drive lawfully. McMahon's attorney, Mark Sherman, provided a brief quote to TMZ about the hearing's outcome. He said, quote, "It was good news. Not every car accident is a crime, and the judge agreed he deserved this dismissal, and we're grateful for that. Of course, we'll update you if and when these charges are officially dropped." And finally, it's been an interesting time when it comes to the WWE ID program. Lots of names are being let go from it. Bryce Donovan has announced his departure from the WWE ID program and WWE Evolve. He wrote the following message on social media, quote, "Finale. I will no longer be with WWE ID or Evolve. Thanks for the good time, everyone. Learned a lot, especially from X-Pac, who is the best coach anyone could ask for. I'll let you know what's happening next when I decide, or maybe I won't. I don't know yet." Now, Bryce Donovan had been a regular competitor on Evolve. He challenged Jackson Drake for the Evolve Championship on Evolve Succession just this past Wednesday. He was announced as a WWE ID signing back in November of 2024. But as I mentioned, this comes after quite a few departures. He is the latest wrestler to depart the WWE ID program, following on from the likes of Zeta Steele, Kylie Ray, Zara Zaka, Aaron Roberts, Ice Williams, and Jordan Oasis in recent months. Now, despite the departures, WWE appears set to continue with the ID program, and it's set to continue as Jackson Drake reportedly re-signed with the program. WWE have also teased new WWE ID signings, so we'll wait and see indeed how that does play out. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.